Welcome, sisters and brothers. My name is Eros, and I am the Dollmaker. Today, for our series about divination, we will be talking about the I Ching. So, as always, I will need my notes. And the first thing that we want to ask ourselves is what is the I Ching? The I Ching is one of the oldest book of knowledge and spirituality in the world, in the history of humanity. And together with the Tao Te Ching is one of the most important books in Taoism. It's one of the most important and sacred book of humanity. It's a book meant for spiritual guidance of the practitioner. And also, it's a book meant to connect ourselves to a superior wisdom and insight. In a sense, this book is also one of the prime examples and one of the oldest methods to build some sort of a giant super network in which we can make researches about our current situation, forgive me, our current situation in our lives and the possible outcomes of the situation we are asking about. This book is a distillation, in this sense, of the wisdom of some of the greatest sages and grandmasters who ever walked on earth. This book is structurally, basically, it is using the principle of causality, not casuality, causality, structured with the laws of the universe, mainly the seven principles, instead of an algorithm to choose. Why am I telling you this? Because if we want to make an analogy to today's super intelligences, artificial intelligences, if you want, these digital super intelligences are enormous conglomerates of information used through an algorithm. This book is instead relying on the wisdom of our ancestors, and this wisdom is structured through the laws of the universe. I hope I explained the analogy in a way we can all understand, but I find it really interesting. Now, let's try to understand why we want to work on the I Ching. We have established, of course, at this point that the I Ching is a sacred book, and it should be consulted for guidance, to obtain knowledge about our lives, to obtain knowledge about the situations in our lives, and we may even want to use this book to review our moral and ethical compass when we feel confused by the situations in our life, the circumstances in our life. Of course, the information that we are going to obtain from the I Ching will be, in a sense, codified. Forgive me the term. And this codifying happens because this book comes with a culture that is different from ours, of course, if we are from the West. Forgive me again. And I find that these differences express themselves in mainly three ways. The first way in which this language, in which we get our answers, is codified is that, of course, this book is coming from an Eastern culture, China. So we need to immerse ourselves on the consulting of the sacred book. And we need to immerse ourselves in the book often and diligently to understand the knowledge at its core. The second difference is that this book is written on an archaic language. So, this book was written at least 2000 years ago, probably more. So, we need to get on pace with the language, because this language in the beginning may feel a little bit old or even sometimes incomprehensible, until we can finally immerse ourselves into this language and to what it may mean in our life, to understand what it's trying to tell us using this language. Then, of course, the book will always be talking to you in a way that is the best way the book can use to make you understand his message. For example, we need to the term noble is used many times in the book. So you want to understand what the book is meaning, but also to understand the message, what noble means to you in your life. Then, the third way in which the book may result codified is that we need to contemplate the situation we are asking about, and we also want to contemplate the answers that the book is giving to ourselves. So, in this day and age, we tend to always go fast and faster to the point. If we want to obtain actual, real knowledge, we need to stop and contemplate our question and also the answer that the book is giving to us. Taking our time, which is something that happens rarely these days, but it's the natural way of using the book, and it's also the natural way in which we should live as humans. Then, let's talk about how to approach the book. Now, 20 years ago, more or less, I approached the book in search of knowledge and trying to give my best. I have studied the book for a whole year before even attempting any form of divination. To this day, I need to confess that divination, at least in my opinion, may be the best way to approach the book straight away. So you can get straight into practice, straight into the action, to better understand the language, the situation, the way in which the book is communicating to you personally. So I will suggest you to start with the divination straight away once you got a method. In a martial arts analogy, for example, once you get the bare minimum basics, you want to actually start to simulate fights, called sparring usually. Or so you can try to see how it works for you, and you can review what you have done to better understanding how to evolve in your practice, if you get the analogy. Then let's talk about how to read the I Ching for divination. We can use many ways, but some of these ways are very ancient and reserved to specific monastic orders. For example, tossing turtle shells, or a few more secretive ones. So we will discuss in this episode one method in detail, but I will quote the method we can use for our daily practice, for our daily use. The first method, the more traditional one, is using Yarrow stones to read the I Ching. This method can be quite complex, it's an extremely fascinating method, but the explanation on how to use this method will require a whole separate episode. So we will not be discussing this method in detail here. I do not recommend this method in the beginning to jumpstart your practice, to introduce you to the I Ching, since it's quite complex, and also because, in my opinion, in my experience, this method gives the same quality of reading as the coin method that we will be discussing later. So this method is more an approach of tradition, an approach in which you want to impress yourself or the consultant, if it's another person, if it's your client, if it's your friend, and so on. But it's more a method, a spectacular method, at least in my opinion. Then, of course, if you are very traditional, feel free to study this one. Then, the second method available for us is to randomly opening a page, like what is done in bibliomancy, for example. Now, this method is not accurate and it doesn't allow us to consult and understand the single lines in mutation. Still a good method to obtain generic counseling about a situation if you are in extreme condition. So if you don't even have access to 3 coins, for example. Then there's the third method, that is the one that we will be discussing more in detail. This is the coin toss method. It is the most commonly known and fast method, is the fastest method, aside from randomly opening the book, of course, which it doesn't really fit for a specific lecture, and is just as effective as the Yarrow Stone method, in my opinion. You want to use, forgive me, for this method, 3 coins. Sometimes, usually 3 traditional Chinese coins are used, but you still can use any kind of coins, but I do recommend you to use similar coins, so 3 coins of the same size or with the same numbers and so on, and you need to choose ahead which side will be a tail and which side will be heads. So the tail will be a value of 2 on a single coin, and the head will be a value of 3 on the single coin again. Then, to make a petition to the book, to try to get information to the book, we want to be in a relaxed state, or even a meditational state, if you want. We want to have a clear question in mind, and if we can, we want to be in an undisturbed place. Then we are going to toss our 3 coins 4-6 times, counting the results. To extract an hexagram, don't worry, we will understand what is an hexagram briefly. The results are written from the bottom to the top to form the hexagram. So we are going to toss these 3 coins for 6 times to form the hexagram from bottom to top. Every single toss of the coin, since they are 3 and every coin may have a value of 2 or 3, every single result of every one of the 6 toss can be only 6, 7, 8 or 9, obviously. So we are going to take note of the results. A 6 will result in a mobile broken line or open line, so a yin mobile line. A 7 will be, as a result, a fixed solid line, a yang fixed line. An 8 will be a fixed broken line or open line, so a yin fixed line. And a 9 will be a mobile solid line, so a mobile yang line. Now, please, again, do remember that the lines are extracted, casted, if you want, with the coins from the bottom to the top. Then, once you got your hexagram for your question, you are going to consult the index at the end of the book, usually, depending on your edition, to find the corresponding hexagram to your cast. Then, at this point, the hexagram will be explained in a few sections. The first section will be always the sentence. It's the most important part of the reading. It will talk you about the general situation and it will give you the main answer to your question. Usually, you will need a metaphor, not always, but usually you will need a metaphorical explanation of the specific situation you are asking about. You can't expect it to be extremely specific, giving names or something like that, of course, because the answers need to be general for the system to work. So you will need to interpret the answer of the sentence in your situation. Then the second part of the hexagram will be explained in the image. Sometimes the image may be a general description of your situation, in the situation you are in, but just as often the image may be description of the structure of the hexagram, why the hexagram is composed in this way. So you will need it further down the path to better understand the forces that are in play in the hexagram. And then, if you got lines in mutation, so if you got 6s or 9s, you will also read the description of the single lines in mutation, only if they are present in your casting, in your specific reading. And these lines can be some specifics, some clarifications for your question, for your specific situation, or sometimes these lines, especially if they are very dominant, if they are very important in the hexagram, may completely transform the main sentence. Then, at this point, we are almost at the end. Please do remember to always build your hexagram from the bottom to the top. Read every single part, the sentence, the image, and the single line, and read carefully the comments coming after the sentence, the image, and the single lines, because they are your main way, your main path to gain better clarity about what the book is trying to tell you. Then, this is a basic reading. This is a very basic reading. If you want to go further, if you are a little more advanced, you want to also consult the second part of the book, which will be the book of knowledge. You will consult again the single hexagram that you have extracted, and you will get more specific on how the hexagram is built and what is representing. So you will get sometimes better understanding of your reading, of the answer that the book is trying to give. I suggest that you get to the book of knowledge as soon as you feel comfortable with your technique of casting, of tossing coin. Then, if you are even more advanced, you want to derive the secondary hexagram of the hexagram that you have extracted. So now we will probably have a few examples on screen. To get to the secondary hexagram, you will need to transform every yin or yang line in mutation, only in mutation, into the opposite line. This is why they are called in mutation. So, for example, this hexagram will become this another one, this secondary hexagram. And this hexagram will become, as a secondary hexagram, this other one. And you will consult this secondary hexagram only in his sentence and in his image, without any other single lines in mutation, so only the image and the sentence, to get further advice on your question for your situation. Now, I know this method may seem complex, even daunting in the beginning, but please do remember that reading the I Ching, studying the I Ching, is a lifetime journey in which I wish for you a safe and wonderful travel. You will surely become great in time if you put all of yourself into these form of study and divination. So, as always, I deeply thank you for your kind attention. I hope I will see you in the next video, and may eternal light always shine upon you.